Hello and welcome. This is Notibot ENG. I'm your anchor, and this is your evening news recap. Tonight, tensions in the Middle East and the world of energy continue to escalate. We'll take a closer look at the latest developments in the Iran-US standoff, including the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and what it means for global oil supplies. Additionally, we'll explore the U.S. decision to waive sanctions on Russian oil sales and how it's impacting the energy market. Let's get started with the top news stories of the day. Amid ongoing tensions between the U.S. and Russia, the Biden administration has made another significant move on the global energy landscape. The U.S. has issued a one-month sanctions waiver on Russian oil sales, allowing the importation of oil and petroleum products that were already at sea. The waiver, announced by the Trump administration on Friday, reverses a previous statement from the Treasury Secretary, who had indicated 2 days earlier that the measure would not be renewed. This latest move is aimed at easing global energy prices, which have surged following the conflict in Iran and disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. The Trump administration, in collaboration with its European allies, is seeking to reduce the impact of the sanctions on oil markets. The waiver, which is set to expire in 1 month, will allow Russia's state-owned oil giant Rosneft to continue exporting oil to countries such as China and India. The move is seen as a short-term solution to the energy crisis, but critics argue that it could embolden Russia to continue exploiting the global energy market. The waiver is also seen as a strategic move by the U.S. to gain leverage with Russia in the ongoing conflict. The Trump administration has been pushing for a more conciliatory approach to the crisis, and this latest move may be seen as a way to build support from European allies. However, the move has been met with criticism from some lawmakers and human rights groups, who argue that the sanctions were imposed in the first place to punish Russia for its actions in Ukraine. Following a surge in tensions between Iran and the U.S., the Strait of Hormuz has been closed again, disrupting global shipping. So, just hours after Iran's military declared the Strait of Hormuz closed again, more than a dozen commercial ships have made it through. This sudden shift has cast doubt on U.S. President Donald Trump's optimism about a peace deal with Iran. The deal was supposed to end the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran, which has been a major concern for the region. However, the toing and froing over the Strait of Hormuz has raised questions about the stability of the situation. According to Iran's military command, the closure was put in place to prevent any potential threats to the country's naval forces. The U.S. has long been involved in the region, and Iran views its presence as a threat. The U.S. has responded to the closure by saying that it's working with its allies to de-escalate tensions in the region. The Strait of Hormuz is a vital waterway that connects the Gulf to the rest of the world. It's a major route for oil exports, and any disruption to it can have significant economic implications. The fact that the strait was closed again just hours after it was reopened suggests that tensions in the region remain high. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz is a complex one, with multiple actors involved and competing interests at play. As the situation continues to unfold, it's clear that the region remains a flashpoint for international tensions. With the U.S. and Iran locked in a standoff, the future of the region and the stability of global trade hangs in the balance. We're seeing a significant escalation in tensions between Iran and the U.S., as the Islamic Republic has once again closed the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has once again closed and restricted the Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway that carries a significant portion of the world's oil trade. The decision was made by the Iranian Joint Military Command, which stated that its control of the Strait of Hormuz has returned to its previous state, under strict management and control of the armed forces. This move comes after a ceasefire agreement was reached between Israel and Lebanon, which led to the reopening of the strait. However, Iran's Speaker of Parliament and senior negotiator, Mohammed Bakr Qalibaf, warned that the strait would not remain open if the U.S. blockade of its ports continued. The U.S. has maintained its blockade, which Trump described as will remain in full force until Tehran reaches a deal with the U.S., including on its nuclear program. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz is significant because it has the potential to disrupt global oil supplies. The strait is a critical shipping lane, and any disruption to it could have far-reaching consequences for the global economy. The involvement of major world powers, including the U.S., Iran, and Israel, adds to the complexity of the situation. Pakistan is playing a key role in mediating a deal between Iran and the U.S. Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has expressed optimism about the prospects of a deal, noting that the ceasefire in Lebanon was a positive sign. The Pakistani government is expected to host a second round of talks between Iran and the U.S. in the coming days, ahead of a deadline of April 22nd for the ceasefire. The fate of the Strait of Hormuz and the global economy hangs in the balance. A new escalation in tensions in the Middle East has led to a sudden shift in maritime trade routes, as Iran reasserts its authority. Iran has reimposed shipping restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz, a key waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. This move comes after a brief lull in tensions, during which the United States had hinted at a potential easing of restrictions. However, Tehran has now stated that control of the strait has returned to its previous state, with Iran's armed forces in charge. The Iranian spokesman accused the United States of engaging in banditry and maritime piracy under the guise of a so-called blockade. This statement was made just hours after the Iranian government announced that it would not be participating in a second round of talks with Washington. The talks, which had been scheduled for the coming days, were seen as a potential way to ease tensions and find a mutually acceptable solution. The Strait of Hormuz is a highly strategic waterway, with the United States and other countries relying on it for the transportation of oil and other goods. The closure of the strait would have significant economic implications, with many countries relying on the waterway to supply their fuel needs. The move by Iran also raises concerns about the safety of vessels transiting the strait, with the potential for increased risk of conflict or accidents. With tensions between Iran and the United States at a high, this move is likely to have far-reaching consequences for global energy markets and international relations. Tensions in the region continue to escalate as Iranian officials respond to recent comments from U.S. and Israeli officials, sparking a new round of assertive rhetoric. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bakir Qalibaf, has stated that the U.S. and Israel have failed to achieve their goals through lies and misinformation. This comes as tensions between the U.S., Iran, and Israel remain high over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global energy corridor. Qalibaf warned that the continuation of pressure and blockade measures could affect the security of the strait, and that Iran would regulate maritime traffic under its oversight. The strait, which connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman, is a vital shipping lane for oil exports, particularly from the Middle East. The U.S. and its allies have imposed sanctions on Iran, including a naval blockade of the strait, in an effort to curb its nuclear program. However, Qalibaf claims that disinformation and lies have not delivered results on the battlefield and will similarly fail in diplomatic efforts. The Iranian public, Qalibaf said, would not be swayed by manipulation efforts and urged audiences to rely on official sources for accurate updates on negotiations. This is a significant shift in tone, as Iran has previously emphasized the importance of dialogue and cooperation. Qalibaf's statement also highlights the growing assertiveness of Iran in the region, as it seeks to assert its influence over one of the world's most critical shipping lanes. The implications of this statement are far-reaching and will likely be closely watched by governments and analysts around the world. The situation remains volatile, and further escalation is a possibility. Thank you for watching. That's all for tonight's news recap. To stay informed on the latest developments, please subscribe to our channel. We'll keep you updated on the ongoing tensions between the U.S., Iran, and Russia. We'll also bring you the latest on the oil industry and global politics. Until next time, good night, and we'll see you in the next video.